Would anyone walk into Pitbull Stadium and come out with a win? It turns out some teams did, including the Monmouth Hawks. Oh, dang it. That was an inside joke I squeezed
Yeah.
in there.
Hello, and welcome to Updog Sports Talk on this beautiful Wednesday evening. My name is Matt Miller, and today I am joined by Justin McGovern. What's going on, dude?
Hey, the weather is so nice out right now, but that is not what we're here to talk about today. If you've been following along, you'll know that we have been in a series where we are grading the 2024 college football season for each FBS program, and today we are wrapping that up with the Mountain West, Conference USA, and we'll even touch on a few select FCS teams as well. So come join us. It's been a fun series, and this will be how we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, and if this is your first time with us, first of all, welcome. Second of all, we're a program that prides ourselves on sticking up for the little guy, and this episode actually pretty much defines that. Mountain West, Conference USA, FCS teams don't get a whole lot of representation unless you're Ashton Genty in the Heisman conversation. But outside of him, not much representation. So we are here gladly to talk about these teams, and we are Updog Sports Talk. And with that being said, Justin, for the last FBS conference of the year, Conference USA.
Yep, and if you have not joined us before, we do these in alphabetical order. So this will start off with
Vice Night at FIU.
Yeah, FIU Panthers with Pitbull putting his name all over the stadium. How would the first season with Pitbull's support go? Would anyone walk into Pitbull Stadium and come out with a win? It turns out some teams did, including the Monmouth Hawks. Oh, dang it. That was an inside joke I squeezed
Yeah.
in there. But it was FIU at 4-8. How would you grade your season?
What's funny is when I texted you the grades, I actually did not give them a grade, but I didn't forget to add them into the list. So, surprise, because you didn't see this one coming. I give them a D plus. They beat teams that I gave. I can get to those grades later, but they didn't beat any good teams.
Yeah. And they had a decent amount of returning starters. They had some pretty good weapons on offense. It was like, maybe this team could finally make a step in the right direction, and it didn't happen. It did not. I was disappointed by how they did. I gave them a D as well. They are moving on to a new era now, so it makes sense. D grade is a perfect grade for a team that fired their coach.
Yep. Speaking of teams that fire
Best
their
luck in the future.
coach.
No one. This team did not fire their coach. Jacksonville State.
Okay, they didn't fire him. He left.
Yes. There's a lot of coaching changes here, by the way. Oh man. Anyways, Jacksonville State. This team was one that entered the season with very high expectations. We are excited to see them play. And then the season started rough. They got blown up by Coastal Carolina. We watched as Louisville blew them out. And, then they lost to Eastern Michigan the next week. And it was like, what is going on? Like, this team is supposed to compete for the conference, and they're not. But then, they kind of turned it on a little bit. Got a get-right game against Southern Miss. And then they had liftoff. This team took off. The offense continued to improve every single week with Tyler Huff at quarterback. The defense started to make steps in the right direction. And all of a sudden, as the year went on, this team became the wagon of this conference and ended up winning it. going 9-5. How would you grade your season?
I give them an A minus. They had a very impressive streak in the middle of the season. Had it not been for Rich Rod leaving, I do think they would have beat Ohio in the bowl game. I don't blame Rich Rod for leaving because Jacksonville State or West Virginia, but they had one hell of a year. I really hope that they can continue the success going forward. But yeah, A minus.
Yep, I gave them an A minus as well. Winning their conference is a huge plus. The minus is really just for the how they started. Obviously looked rough for a few weeks, but they pulled it together and really, really dominated. Very impressive, this team. This is only their second season moving up from FCS. So to win their conference in that second season is very good work. Next, we look at a team that was new, the newest team from FCS in 2024, the Kennesaw State Owls. It went as you would expect a transition season to go. They end up going 2-10. How would you grade your season?
I gave them a D plus because they beat the team that was expected to blow everyone out in this conference. And they got their first FBS win. So congrats to them.
Yeah, I gave them a C. There were no expectations. No one knew what to expect from them. They still beat Liberty, which was one of the biggest upsets of the year, and a very impressive win, which was a nice boost to their grade. They had just moved up, so I don't know if I agree with, firing your coach after that. That didn't make a whole lot of sense to me when you had just moved up, but that happens sometimes. But I give them a C overall. We'll see how things go under the new era, but Kennesaw State, I think just the plus, they're at this level now. I think people are excited to see them here, and they'll continue to improve. Now we look at the Liberty Flames. Liberty
Louisiana
was
Tech.
I comes before O.
Yeah, but it goes by LA. Whatever. Go ahead.
Liberty. So Liberty was, the big time favorite in this conference. And things just didn't click as expected. Caden Salter and the receivers just never felt like they were on the same page. That kind of held the offense back a little bit. The defense had some losses and wasn't quite as consistent as expected. And Liberty really found themselves in a lot of close games, pulled most of them out, but obviously, the most glaring one was the Kennesaw State game that they didn't pull out. But how would you grade your season?
I would give Liberty a B minus. I think that Appalachian State game that got canceled kind of screwed them up a little bit. They got a fairly easy game after that at playing FIU at home. And then they had then I think the bottom just came out on that and lost to Kennesaw State and wagon Jacksonville State. And then followed up with a good trio of wins. But they did fall off at the end of the season, and then they didn't win their bowl game. So I'll give them a B minus. I know expectations were high, but want to at least reward a solid season.
Yeah, I gave him a B minus as well. 8 wins is still nothing to sneeze at. That's still a pretty good performance. Obviously, the minus is for being a little below expectation. Obviously, but yeah, like you mentioned, like there are definitely some weird circumstances. Like, Liberty played I think it was one game in an entire month, which is just something you never see. So that was an incredibly weird circumstance that we probably won't come across again, but hopefully. But Yeah, I gave him a B minus. Just solid, below expectation a little bit. It'll be just interesting to kind of see them, kind of try to retool the roster a little bit. Maybe find some better fits here and there, and I think we could still expect them to be one of the top teams in this conference year in and year out.
Yeah. Moving on down to Louisiana, we got the Louisiana Tech. What are they again? I
The
keep blanking.
Bulldogs. Are
Bulldogs.
you trying to? Were you trying like a little Southern accent, but like not going all the way in?
Yeah, I was trying to Brian Kelly my way through this. And then the accent threw the whole thing off, whatever. I'm gonna give Louisiana Tech a D plus. I don't think they handled business. They did have a tough schedule, but I don't think they really they did do 3 separate overtime games. But they couldn't handle business in any of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I think letting that many games slip away kind of hurts a little bit. Um, you know, it was a very weird team. So, they were a team that probably had an opportunity to work their way up in the conference a little bit, work their way up in the conference standings. But Sonny Cumby, their coach, had the past few years had really good offenses, and they were held back by atrocious defenses. And then for some reason this year it flipped. They all of a sudden were playing really, really good defense, and it was their offense that couldn't get the job done. So, obviously they're making some changes around that. I think Cumby decided that trying to be a head coach and call plays is too much in this current day and age of college football. I think that's true for a lot of coaches. There's probably still a lot of coaches out there that need to realize that. But, so he had to make the change there to try to get their offense jump started in 2025. If they can, like, there's definitely a lot of potential here. Like, there was a lot of, they definitely left a lot of meat in the bone here. I gave him a C minus for that. But, again, the overtime games, those could have gone the other way. They had a nice halftime lead against NC State. Probably, they threw a pick six in that game to turn the game around. Like, if they didn't throw that pick six, they probably could have taken that one home. Like, all sorts of these different scenarios could have led to a much better season for Louisiana Tech. But I think, there's definitely there's enough to like here that I think maybe they can turn it around 2025.
Yep.
Next,
Now
look at Mid-10 State. The Blue Raiders, first year head coach Derek Mason.
no relation to wide receiver Derek Mason.
Yes. Former Vanderbilt coach. So he had coached in the area before. But yeah, how will it look was the huge question here. Would they find a way to suddenly improve in year one, or was it just going to be a reset year? It was a reset year. They went 3-9. How would you grade your season?
First of all, I want to say that Mid-10 State was one of the first dynasties that I did in college football. So a little bit of a soft spot. Didn't make it very long with them, but still a little bit of a soft spot. They went 3-9. You can't really reward bad behavior, so I gave them a D minus. Couldn't give them an F because they did end up with 3 wins and they did have relatively tough schedule. But still, they couldn't handle business.
I gave him a C. It was a rebuild year. It was a rebuild year. Rebuild year was a rebuild year. They're turning the page to trying to improve for 2025. Next, we look at our much beloved New Mexico State Aggies. They were absolutely incredible in 2023, but lost basically every single key piece off that roster. How would it look? We were hoping that maybe they could hold on a little bit and at least reach a bowl game. That ended up not being the case. They slipped to 3-9. How would you grade your season?
I give them a D plus. their entire team packed up and moved to Nashville. So there wasn't really much left to play with. They fielded a team, and that's it. They didn't do much with it. But you can't. They didn't have any bad behavior here. They just didn't have a team, so can't really penalize them too much for that. So got to go D plus.
Yeah, I gave them a C minus. It would have been nice to see them grab more wins. But again, just a huge roster reset went on here. So there wasn't a whole lot they could do with it. That makes for a C minus grade, and now we'll see what they could do for 2025. Next, we look at the Sam Houston Bearcats.
Spelled
One of the
wrong.
teams
Spelled so wrong.
That is because we are based in Cincinnati. But anyways, Sam Houston was a team that was mentioned by people as a potential sleeper. Their first season FBS in 2023, they came very close to wins on so many occasions. So it's like, maybe they turn it around, maybe they could improve. And improve they did. 10-3, winning their bowl game. What a season for Sam Houston, only their second year in FBS.
Yeah, I give them an A. I mean, they had a very good season. Would I have liked to see them beat Western Kentucky? Yeah. Would I have liked them to be more competitive against UCF and Jacksonville State? Yeah. But they came in with no expectations. They just wanted to improve, and improve they did.
Yeah. I gave them an A as well. Again, for similar reasons, just such a great season by them. They had some awesome moments too, like coming back from down, I think 22-0 to beat Texas State was such a huge moment for them. The only thing that really held them back from the A plus was, they didn't win the conference, didn't reach the conference championship. So that's really the only dock there. But again, just such a great season for them. Losing your coach, Casey Keeler, the Temple's going to kind of hurt. We'll see what happens there. But overall, I mean, well done, Bearcats. This is one of the stories of the 2024 season.
Yeah.
Next, we look at the UTEP Miners. They had a newfound energy with Scotty Walden coming in, but in terms of how this is going to look on the field, it was not going to be told until the season started. Would this be one of those classic year one resets, or would they suddenly improve? It turned out to be a year one reset with 3-9. How would you grade your season?
I gave them a D. They did get a couple of wins against inferior opponents, but they lost to Southern Utah. You can't lose to Southern Utah.
Hey, you can lose to Southern Utah.
I mean, yeah, they can, but should they? No. What do you think?
Yeah. I gave them a C. It was a rebuild. It took a little bit to get their first win. I felt like once they did, they kind of started to take some steps in the right direction and play a little bit better. They got a really one of the most fun games of the year was also one of the most offbeat games of the year. UTEP playing Kennesaw State in a wild overtime thriller. You had to search the deep corners of ESPN Plus for this game, but man, if you found it, it put on a show for you. It was a lot of fun. That was a huge one, but obviously 3-9 is not what they really want to see, but I think this was year one. You just need to find some good moments, show that the future looks bright, and I think they did that. So I gave them a C. And I'm looking forward to what the team's going to look like in 2025. Former number one quarterback prospect Malachi Nelson's coming in. We'll see if he can finally win this job. If that takes off, then we could be really enjoying UTEP minor football in 2025.
Yeah, that would be
But
dope.
even without that, I think Scotty Walden's going to build something here. Year one is not going to be an indication of how it's going to go, but man, I'm looking forward to this. What this program is going to do in the future.
Yeah. Now, Justin, now is our favorite time of this show, of this program. We finally get to talk FCS.
Wait, I thought we get to talk about Big Red. Come on. How can you forget Big Red again? Oh my!
I'm just so excited for FCS.
Matt forgot Western Kentucky earlier when we were doing our pre-show text, and now he forgot them again. Western Kentucky fans, make sure to let him have it. Western Kentucky had a solid season. I felt like there's some wins that they let slip away a little bit, but they ended up going 8-6. I think it was pretty decent, but they didn't get to win the conference or anything. But overall, how would you grade your season?
I'd give them a C plus. They did have a solid season, but in order for me to give them an A or a B, I mean, I wanted to see them win their bowl game. They didn't. They lost to James Madison, who we actually really like. So, but give them a C plus.
I gave them a B minus. There was the late season slide definitely leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Obviously they made the conference championship. That was good, but got crushed by Jacksonville State in that one. And I don't know, it was just weird. Like something just didn't look right with the offense late in the year, and they sort of fell off a little bit because of that. They also had some games early in the year that kind of got away from them too. Like, they had a shot to beat Boston College, had a 20-7 lead, and let that slip away. That kind of hurt a little bit. But that's the minus in the B plus. Overall, 8 wins is stuff that they complained about. Pretty good season. But we'll see what they can do to get back to competing for this conference.
All right, that's enough FBS. Yeah, and for those of you who didn't watch us last week, we did get our logo on the back of an ARCA Series NASCAR. It was such an honor. Shout out to Brayton Laster. You ran a hell of a race, kid. Kept the car on the track, avoided wrecks, and kept all the parts intact while you're on the track. So did a really good job, and it was an honor to be on your car. And Justin found out some figures that we can talk about off camera on how much it costs to sponsor the same size patch on a car.
Huge moment for us for sure. That was special. And then finally, I think the last bit of housekeeping items, obviously, as we were going here, I was watching the American Eagles clinch their berth to the NCAA tournament. So, we've been very much in tune with college basketball. Stay tuned next week as we go through our NCAA tournament bracket.
Hell yeah.
Can't believe it's that time of year. March Madness is here, man.
I know, dude. Like, I think that we need to get, and it's going to be hard to figure out what side of the bracket is what, because they don't do it the same way they did back then. But I think we need to try to plug as many of these teams into March Madness 2008 or yours NCAA basketball 2010 to see how many we can get right based on our own computer simulations, because that's the only thing we have to go on.
There we go. Oh man, yeah. That was always a fun activity to do, was to see if we could outsmart the machines. And then my wife fills out a bracket each year, and that's always a lot of fun. which we'll have to see. She tends to be pretty biased. So if if VCU if VCU makes it, I would fully expect her to take VCU to win it all, and I'm all for
it. Justin is probably going to go off camera here in just a minute.
it.
Just kidding. But yeah, that is the show. Follow us at Updog Sports Talk on X, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, TikTok, YouTube since you're watching, or if you're listening on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music. I know I'm forgetting iHeartRadio. We're on everything. So follow us, like us, subscribe, show us some love. Tell your friends about us. We're trying to grow our channel and trying to represent the little guy. So we will catch you next time, and we will talk about college basketball.
Yeah, March Madness.
See you guys.